Okay, y'all. So I need everybody to stop what you are doing right now. Put the group chat on mute and come sit with me, because what we are about to walk through today is not gossip. It is not shade. It is a full-blown, five-alarm celebrity emergency playing out in real time. And the woman standing in the middle of the fire is fighting for her crown, her coins, her heart, and her sanity all at the exact same time. Cardi B is under attack from 5 different directions at once. 5. Not one hater, not one bitter ex, not one messy blogger with a ring light. 5 separate wars on 5 separate battlefields, and she is standing dead in the center of every single one of them with nothing but a phone in her hand, and that Bronx temper loaded up like a weapon. And baby, some of what I am about to tell you is documented, stamped, and filed, and some of it is still sitting in the alleged section, and I promise I will tell you which is which every step of the way. But before anybody runs to the comments calling me a hater, let me be clear about something right up front. I don't manufacture receipts on this channel. I read the ones that already exist. Court filings, chart numbers, on-camera interviews, and posts these folks published with their own 2 thumbs. So hold your fire until the end, and then you tell me who played themselves. Now look at the board with me, because when you lay it all out it is honestly staggering. Nicki Minaj is coming for her chart legacy. BIA is coming for her credibility. Offset is coming for her bank account with both hands and a whole legal team behind him. Stefon Diggs walked out and left her holding a newborn and a broken heart at the same time. And the fans, the same army that used to crash entire comment sections over one disloyal emoji, the fans are grumbling in the group chat now. Y'all, they told us this woman was bulletproof. They said she could out-rap any rival, outlast any scandal, and out-sass any hater God could schedule. And I believed it. I really did. But what we are watching right now is not a bad week. It is not even a rough month. This is a 5-front war, and today we are going battlefield by battlefield, receipt by receipt, front by front, and I need you locked in until the very last one, because the twist at the end genuinely stunned me, and y'all know I do not stun easy. Let's get into it. So we are opening with the heavyweight title fight, because this one got uglier than anything I have ever covered on this channel. Nicki Minaj versus Cardi B, the 2026 rematch. Now set the scene with me. Cardi finally delivers her sophomore album, Am I the Drama? 7 years, y'all. 7 long years after Invasion of Privacy came out, swept the whole culture, and took home the Grammy. 7 years of delays, label whispers, its scumming promises, fan uprisings, and think pieces asking if she would ever drop again. And then the album lands, and it debuts at #1 on the Billboard 200. Say whatever you want about this woman. That is a superstar's entrance. Confetti should be falling. Champagne should be popping. Somebody should be handing that woman her flowers while she can still smell them. And then Nicki Minaj logged on. Nicki posts exactly 2 things. A $sign and 4.99. That is the entire tweet. No caption, no names, no context. But the whole timeline understood immediately, because streaming platforms had slapped a discount on Cardi B's album, and Nicki Minaj was informing the world that those #1 units were allegedly moved off the clearance rack. Baby, that is not a diss track. That is a sub with a sniper scope attached. And that one little tweet was a match tossed into a gas station, because she did not log off. She went to war for 3 straight days. No sleep, no breaks, no publicist in the frame. She accused Nicki of being abused as a child. She dragged Nicki's husband, a registered sex offender, and that is public record, not gossip, directly onto the timeline. She brought up Nicki's brother, who is sitting in a prison cell right now for a crime I refuse to even describe on this channel. Screenshots, voice notes, text messages from years ago that she had apparently been saving like canned goods for the apocalypse. Cardi emptied the whole clip, reloaded, and emptied it again. And Nicki fired right back, mocking Cardi's pregnancy, mocking her daughter culture, and I have to stop right there, because that is a child, y'all. A child. Mocking the marriage that is currently being carved up in divorce court. And then Nicki pressed the bruise that has followed Cardi B since 2017. You don't write your own raps. Every rival reaches for that accusation eventually, but Nicki reached with both hands and twisted. The Barbs and the Barty gang turned the timeline into a war zone for 72 hours. Hashtags rose and fell like empires. Bloggers did not sleep. And when the smoke cleared, The culture was left staring at what I genuinely believe was the ugliest female rap feud of the decade. Not on wax, not on a stage, but live on X with millions of us watching like it was pay-per-view. Now here is the part nobody wants to say out loud, so I guess it has to be my job. She admitted in an interview, on camera, out of her own mouth, that she used to spend 13 hours a day arguing with people on Twitter. 13 hours a day, honey. That is a full-time job with overtime and no benefits. She jokes about it now, and don't get me wrong, it is funny, but I need you to sit with what 13 hours a day actually builds. It builds a brand. The petty queen. The clapback champion. The woman who never, ever lets anything slide. And a brand like that does not retire just because you decide you want peace. It gets weaponized against you. Every blogger, every rival, every troll with 12 followers knows the cheat code now. Poke her and she will swing, every single time, guaranteed content. So in 2026, everybody is poking. The whole industry is farming her temper for engagement, and she keeps showing up to be harvested. And here is the detail inside this feud that almost nobody covered, and it is the detail that connects this battlefield to everything else in this video. She did not confess those 13 hours on a podcast to be quirky. She confessed it explaining how the internet shaped her. 13 hours a day of arguing did not just waste her time. It trained her. It turned conflict into cardio. So when Nicki drops a price tag in 2026, Cardi does not experience it as a strategic provocation to be ignored. She experiences it as a bell, and she is the fighter who has been conditioned for 9 straight years to answer that bell swinging. Nicki knows it. Every blogger with a camera knows it. The whole industry has read the manual on Cardi B, and the manual has exactly one instruction. Press the button and she comes out swinging, and the views come free. Remember that manual, because every battlefield we visit from here on out is somebody different pressing that exact same button. Now let me give the barbs their due, because fair is fair. That fan base moved like a trained army during those 3 days. Every tweet of hers was screenshotted, archived, annotated, and deployed within minutes. Meanwhile, the Barty gang was doing the same thing in reverse, and the algorithm sat in the middle of it all, like a casino owner watching 2 high rollers bet their houses against each other. Because here is what nobody in either fanbase wants to hear. The platform won that war. Neither woman did. 3 days of the most vicious female rap feud of the decade, and the only entity that came out richer was the app itself. Every quote tweet was revenue. Every Spaces session was revenue. Every tear, every insult, every family secret dragged onto the timeline was monetized by people who have never met either of these women and never will. Somebody in the comments always says they're both embarrassing, and honestly, that might be the only fully correct take in the whole discourse. But embarrassing or not, we all watched. I watched. You watched. You are watching right now. So before we judge the players too harshly, we might have to have an honest conversation about the audience. And honey, the audience is us. So here's my first question for the comments, and I want real answers, not fan war spam. When Nicki Minaj tweets a price tag with no name attached, is walking away even in Cardi B's DNA? Or is ignoring a sub the one move this woman has never once been able to make? Tell me where you land, and hold that thought, because by the end of this video, that question is going to answer itself. Now, before we leave the Nicki chapter, I need to put the history on the table properly, because half the people watching this are too young to remember how we even got here. Cardi B and Nicki Minaj have been circling each other since the moment Bodak Yellow knocked the industry door off its hinges back in 2017. There was the Harper's Bazaar party in 2018, where a shoe became a projectile and Cardi left with a knot on her forehead the size of a moral statement. There were years of subs, years of denials, years of both fan bases running forensics on every lyric either woman ever breathed into a microphone. For a while, it went quiet, and the quiet fooled a lot of people into thinking peace had broken out. It had not. It was a ceasefire. And ceasefires in hip-hop are just reload seasons. That is why the 4.99 tweet landed the way it did. Nicki did not pick a random Tuesday to log on. She picked the exact week the album was sitting at #1, the exact moment the culture was forced to admit the 7-year wait had paid off. And she pressed the one bruise that has never healed, the sales discourse. Are the numbers pure? Are they discounted? Are they bundles? And here is the cold, uncomfortable truth about that tactic. It does not matter whether the accusation is fair. It matters that it is legible. One glance, one screenshot, one repost, and every casual fan who will never read a Billboard methodology article walks away with a question mark stapled to her crown. That is not luck. That is marksmanship. Nicki has been in this game long enough to know you do not have to beat the album. You just have to beat the narrative around the album. And her response told us everything about where her head is at in 2026. The old Cardi, the 2018 Cardi, would have fired off one nuclear tweet, laughed, and gone back to counting money. The 2026 version went 3 days deep. And y'all, I went back and read as much of that timeline as my spirit could handle. And what struck me was the escalation pattern. It started with chart talk, the kind of standard industry shade rappers have traded since before streaming existed. But by day 2, it was husbands. By day 2, it was brothers. By day 3, it was children, pregnancies, childhood trauma. Each woman kept reaching for a heavier weapon, and neither one was willing to be the one who holstered first, because in their world, the one who stops shooting first is the one the internet declares the loser. That is the game. That has always been the game. But 2 women with this much money, this much legacy, and this many children playing it at this temperature, it stopped being entertainment somewhere around hour 40 and started being genuinely sad. And I know how this goes, so let me pre-answer the comment somebody is already typing. You're just calling it sad because you don't want to pick a side. Wrong. I have no side. I have a front row seat and a strong Wi-Fi connection. Same as you. What I have is eyes, and my eyes watched a registered sex offender's name get used as ammunition, watched a woman's daughter get dragged into grown folk business, and watched 2 of the most successful female rappers in history burn 3 days of their one wild and precious life on an app. If that is winning, I would hate to see losing. Now, let's walk over to battlefield number 2, because if Nicki is the reigning champion staring across the ring, BIA is the hungry contender half the crowd didn't even know was on the card. And honey, she showed up with a slingshot loaded with grenades. This feud did not start yesterday, so rewind with me to 2023. BIA links up with Nicki Minaj on Whole Lotta Money, and in her eyes, that was not a collaboration. That was a defection. Because in rap politics, when you stand next to somebody's sworn enemy and smile for the camera, you have picked a side. She clocked it, filed it away, and waited. And if there is one thing we have established here, it is that when she waits, somebody eventually catches these hands. Lyrically speaking, mostly. So in 2025, Cardi finally fired the shot the whole culture heard. Pretty and petty. And these were not playful bars. She mocked BIA's commercial track record, mocked the catalog, or more precisely the alleged absence of one. And then she delivered the line that had the entire internet clutching its chest. Name 5 BIA songs, gun pointed to your head. And I have to be honest with y'all, because this is a no-spin zone. As a piece of writing, that bar is diabolical. It is diabolical because it is a dare the listener automatically performs inside their own head. Every single person who heard that line immediately tried to name 5 BIA songs. That is not just a diss. That is a diss that drafts the audience into participating in the humiliation. I don't write the rules of rap warfare, but I do keep score, and that was a 10. But here is where the story flips, because BIA did not roll over. BIA did not post a crying video or a Notes app apology. BIA went to the booth. First came Sue Me, then came Bianca, and BIA swung at everything she holds sacred. Ghostwriters, plastic surgery, fraud, and the deepest cut of all, the accusation that she did not just represent the Bronx, but allegedly lifted her entire rap identity from Bronx OGs who never got a check, a credit, or a thank you. Y'all, that one is not a punchline. That one is an attempt to burn down her origin story. And Cardi knew exactly what it was, because this woman, who has never backed down from a single soul on this planet, climbed onto X Spaces and went through BIA's diss line by line, insisting that BIA is lying, that none of it is true, that the whole record is fan fiction with a beat under it. And I sat and listened to that space, and what struck me was not the anger, it was the energy expenditure. The self-declared #1 female rapper alive, spending her evening doing a forensic rebuttal of an artist whose last chart position needs a telescope to locate. Think about the contrast for a second. Nicki tweets a price tag and lets the internet do the labor for free. Cardi hosts a whole town hall. The difference in strategy is not subtle, and the culture keeps receipts on strategy just like it keeps receipts on bars. Then BIA doubled down this month, on August 14th, days ago, y'all, days, firing off a fresh round of social media jabs so explosive that Cardi started trending for all the wrong reasons during what was supposed to be her victory lap season. And then came the moment that told me this war is nowhere near over. The 2026 BET Awards. She is on that stage performing a medley from Am I the Drama? Her moment, her album, her night, millions of people watching live. And instead of letting the music breathe, she kept the BIA beef alive right there on the broadcast, sliding mockery into the medley like it was part of the choreography. Now, some people called that a power move. She's untouchable. She can beef on the biggest stage in black entertainment and still win the night. And I hear that reading, I do. But let me offer the other reading, the one nobody wants to say at the cookout. When you are standing at number one, and you spend your coronation performance aiming down at the undercard, you are telling the entire world the undercard got under your skin. BIA could not buy that kind of publicity with a label budget, and it was handed to her for free on national television with a smile and a costume change. And a lot of you have been asking me why BIA specifically seems to live under Cardi's skin in a way other rivals don't. So let me give you my working theory. It is just a theory, but I have been turning it over for months. Nicki attacks Cardi's present. Her sales, her marriage, her rollout. That stings, but it is surface. BIA attacks her past. The ghostwriting claims, the fraud claims, the accusation that the entire Bronx persona is a costume borrowed from people who never got paid. That is different. That is a direct shot at the authenticity that made Cardi be famous in the first place. Her whole mythology is, I am exactly what you see. I am realer than all of them. I came from the gutter, and I never lied about the gutter. When BIA says she stole her whole rap style, she is not just insulting a catalog. She is telling the world the crown is a rental. And you can watch in real time how differently Cardi responds to that species of attack. The Nicki war was rage. The BIA war is something closer to panic. Hours on Spaces, line-by-line rebuttals, a whole BET Awards moment dedicated to a rival who on paper should be beneath the conversation entirely. And here is the chess move nobody caught. BIA does not need to win a single round of this fight to win the war. Every time Cardi responds, her name gets typed into search bars by millions of people who could not have picked her out of a lineup in 2024. That line, name 5 BIA songs, was supposed to be an execution. Instead, it became the single most effective advertisement BIA has ever had, because every listener who failed the challenge immediately went and looked her up. She wrote the riddle and BIA collected the streaming checks from everybody who went searching for the answer. I have covered rap beefs for years, and I have rarely seen a diss bar backfire into a marketing campaign for its own target. But here we are. And BIA has been smart enough to keep the provocations coming on a schedule. A jab here, a screenshot there, always just enough to keep her trending for the wrong reasons during what should be the proudest season of her career. August 14th was not random. Nothing about BIA's timing has ever been random. Watch the dates. The jabs land whenever Cardi has something to celebrate. That is not a coincidence. That is a calendar. And notice the pattern, because the pattern is the whole story. Nicki pokes, she goes to war for 3 days. BIA pokes, she goes on Spaces for hours, and then on the BET stage for millions. Every rival in her orbit has learned the same cheat code. Engagement with her is the fastest promo run in the music industry. You don't need a rollout budget. You just need a sub and a little patience, because she will come to you, and she will bring the cameras. So here is question number 2 for the comments. Did the BET moment make Cardi look like a queen defending her crown, or like a champ who cannot stop looking at the cheap seats? Because I promise you, one of those 2 readings is what got clipped, remixed, and pushed to millions of casual viewers who will never stream the album. And I have my suspicions about which one. Now, onto the money front. Okay, y'all. So now let's talk about the battlefield that sits closest to the wallet. Because while the rap girls fight for respect, Offset is fighting for real estate. And honey, if the reports are even half accurate, this divorce is shaping up to be the most expensive rollout of Cardi B's entire career, and there isn't even an album attached to it. Rewind with me again. Cardi files for divorce from Offset in July of 2024, and at the time, the whole world assumed it would be quick. Why wouldn't it be? She has the money. She has the fame. She is raising 3 of his children. And she was, by every public account, the wrong party, because the cheating allegations against Offset were never whispers in a group chat. They were a recurring series with multiple seasons. Hotel rooms, DMs, leaked messages. The internet keeps a whole archive, and the archive is thick. So naturally, we all thought, she writes a check, he signs the papers, everybody goes and lives their life. 2 years later, the divorce is still dragging through the system like rush hour traffic on a Friday. And the reported reason will make your jaw come unhinged. Cardi B allegedly offered Offset $10 million to walk away quietly. $10 million for a man to sign his name and go be great somewhere else. And Offset, the same Offset whose name has been attached to more side chick headlines than hit records in recent memory, reportedly said no. No to $10 million. Because according to the reporting around this case, Offset does not want a settlement. Offset wants a stake. 50%. Half of everything. The claim, allegedly, is that he built Cardi B's career, that without Offset there is no Cardi, that the empire, and estimates put that empire somewhere around $130 million, is half his by right of contribution. Now let me be careful here, because court matters are court matters. Everybody is entitled to their day, and I am a commentator, not a judge. But I want you to sit with the logic for 1 second, because the arithmetic is not arithmetic ing. If you built her career, why is she the one standing on the #1 album while you are the one petitioning for half of it? Builders do not usually invoice the building. Architects don't move into the lobby and demand the penthouse. Make it make sense. And it gets pettier, because of course it does. She revealed on record that part of the holdup is that Offset allegedly wants her to cover his taxes, his IRS debt. Now tuck this away, because it matters. Offset recently paid off a reported $1.5 million federal tax debt on his own. So the man can apparently locate money when the government comes knocking with badges and deadlines. But when it is time to close out this marriage, suddenly the pockets have holes in them. These are leverage games, y'all. This is not about what anybody needs to survive. This is about who blinks first. And Cardi does not blink. That is the entire problem. 2 people who refuse to blink, staring at each other across a conference table while the lawyers bill by the hour. And let me zoom out for a second, because I want to look at what a 2-year divorce actually costs beyond the legal fees. Time in the studio is time. Creative energy is finite. Every week she spends in depositions and conference rooms is a week she is not recording, not rehearsing, not promoting. And this is the quiet part of the strategy people miss. You do not have to win a divorce to profit from it. You just have to make it expensive and slow. Offset's reported position, 50%, she owes my taxes, I built this, that is not a legal argument. It is a toll booth. Park yourself in the road and charge rent for passage. And she, to her credit, has refused to pay the toll. But refusing has its own price, and the price is measured in years. And the timing, y'all. The timing. This divorce has been dragging through the exact years when she was supposed to be cementing her legacy. The sophomore album, the tour, the empire expansion. Every headline she earned with Am I the Drama had to share space with a headline about Offset. Every interview question about the music sat next to a question about the marriage. And I want to be careful here, because she has 3 children with this man, and those children will one day read everything I am summarizing. So I am sticking strictly to what is publicly documented. The cheating allegations are years old and voluminous. The divorce filing is real. The $10 million offer is reported. The 50% demand is reported. The tax dispute is something she said herself, on record. And on record, she says she feels reborn. And I hope with everything in me that the rebirth is real and not just good copy, because the next chapter of this woman's life is going to require her to be sharper than she has ever been. Which brings me to the battlefield that honestly made me feel for this woman. And y'all know I do not hand out sympathy like parade candy. Stefon Diggs. Because after all of that, after Offset, after the cheating headlines, after the divorce from the 9th circle of hell, she thought she had finally caught a blessing. An NFL star. A fresh start. The Instagram soft launch. The hard launch. The whole modern fairy tale. Cardi gets pregnant with baby number 4, and she does not hide it under an oversized hoodie. She goes on CBS Mornings, national television, and announces it, glowing. She told the world, and I am paraphrasing here, that as soon as she gives birth, tour rehearsal starts. The woman was building a whole new life in real time, and she was proud of it. Whatever else is true, let her have had that moment. And then the floor gave out. Stefon Diggs' former chef files criminal charges against him, and I want to be precise. Those were her allegations, and a court heard them. But look at what she did next, because this is the part that tells you everything about how this woman loves. She is pregnant. She is exhausted. She is still trench warfare deep in the Offset divorce. And she still straps on the armor and goes to war for Stefon Diggs. Going at the chef online, calling her a liar, dropping screenshots she claimed exposed the whole story, single-handedly dragging public opinion back to his side. She fought that battle like her own name was the one on the docket. And you know what? The court agreed with her. Stefon Diggs was found not guilty. She stood in the fire, took every burn, and the man walked out cleared, vindicated, free. So surely this is where the loyalty gets repaid, right? 3 months after their son was born, the internet noticed something small and devastating. Stefon Diggs unfollowed her. Then she unfollowed him back. And by February 15th, 2026, one single day after Valentine's Day, and you cannot script cruelty that on the nose, she had all but confirmed the split. Let me add one more layer that the timeline mostly skipped over. When Cardi defended him against the chef's allegations, she was not just defending a boyfriend. She was defending the father of her unborn child, her announced fresh start, her CBS Mornings fairy tale, and her own judgment, all at once. If the allegations were true, every decision she had made for a year collapsed with them. So she fought like it. And for about 90 days, the story looked like it had a happy ending. And then the unfollow. Just an unfollow. No statement, no shade, no scandal, which honestly makes it colder. Scandals can be survived. Silence is a verdict. And this woman, who has never once in her public life been at a loss for words, met that silence with her own. She fought a court battle for him. She birthed his son. She set her own peace of mind on fire to keep him warm. And when the smoke cleared, she was the one left holding the newborn, the broken heart, and a phone full of texts that suddenly had no answers coming back. She says she is ready to date again, and good for her, genuinely. But I need the comments on this one, and be honest with me. When a woman shows up for a man that publicly, that loudly, that expensively, and he still exits stage left, is the problem her picker, or is the problem the men? Debate amongst yourselves. I will be reading. And before we move on, I have to say the quiet financial part out loud, because it ties the Offset chapter and the Diggs chapter together. She is currently funding a life that includes a 2-year divorce, a newborn son, a tour in rehearsal, a $24 million lawsuit defense we are about to get into, and an empire that everybody from Offset to the IRS to the state of California seems to believe they are owed a piece of. That is not a sob story. The woman is worth 9 figures, but it is a pressure map. Every dollar Offset drags into a courtroom is a dollar that has to be replaced in a studio. Every month the divorce stays open is another month the narrative stays open. And narratives, as Nicki Minaj proved with 2 keystrokes, are the real currency of this war. So when I say the next 12 months will decide her entire legacy, understand I am not being dramatic. I am doing math. Now battlefield number 4 is the one that should worry her the most, because it is the only one she cannot clap back at. Her own fans. The Barty Gang was the most ferocious fan army in rap. These are people who would crash an entire comment section over one disloyal emoji. And lately, the grumbling has started. The rollout complaints. The where is the music think pieces. The nostalgia for 2018 like it was the golden age of Rome. And here is where the story takes a turn I did not see coming. Instead of fighting them, she folded inward. She said publicly that fan criticism makes her want to, quote, stay in bed. That when fans complain about her release schedule, she does not feel motivated, she feels beaten. She has talked about wanting to stop making music altogether. Read that again slowly. The woman who went 13 hours a day toe-to-toe with the entire internet. The woman who fought Nicki Minaj for 3 days without sleep. The woman who challenged a whole diss track line by line in front of thousands on Spaces. That woman is telling her own supporters that their words are the ones actually landing. Not the rivals. Not the blogs. Not the court cases. The fans. The people whose streaming numbers built the very empire Offset is allegedly trying to have. And I am going to say something that might get me dragged, But this channel has never been about comfort. There is a version of this where the fans are not the villains. 7 years between albums is a long engagement, and people who waited that long earned a little impatience. But there is also a version where an artist who gives the culture absolutely everything, the fights, the honesty, the chaos, the receipts, the unfiltered access, gets nothing back but a demand for more, faster, now. Both things can be true at once. What cannot be true, what no amount of Bronx stubbornness can outrun, is the idea that Cardi B can keep absorbing hits from enemies and allies simultaneously without something eventually giving out. So here is question number 3, and do not be lazy with it. Do the fans owe Cardi grace after 7 years, or does Cardi owe the fans the music they paid for with a decade of loyalty? I genuinely do not know the answer, and that is exactly why I am asking. Except, and this is the twist, this is why I told you not to touch that remote. Something is refusing to give out. Because while everybody was drafting the obituary, she was quietly stacking wins. She has promised another album inside 2026. She teased new music at a Coney Island performance that had the whole timeline scrambling for fan footage like it was a moon landing. She dropped a brand new single, her first of the year, on July 31st. And then there is the courtroom, because of course there is a courtroom. This is Cardi. She collects court dates the way other artists collect features. The Imani Ellis trial. $24 million on the line. A security guard accused her of scratching her face with an acrylic nail outside an OB/GYN office back in 2018. And I have to pause, because only in this woman's universe does a prenatal checkup resurface as an assault trial 8 years later. The case played out in Los Angeles. The internet turned every day of testimony into a mini-series. And when the verdict finally came down, not liable, the jury cleared her. And when the other side reportedly pushed for a brand new trial, the judge rejected that too. She walked out of that courthouse victorious, acrylics intact, $24 million still sitting in her account where it belongs. So now take everything we have walked through today and lay it all out on one table. In August of 2026, Cardi B is at war with Nicki Minaj over the charts. At war with BIA over her origin story. At war with Offset over her fortune. At war with the ghost of Stefon Diggs over her heart. At war with her own fans over her future. 5 fronts. 1 woman. 1 phone. By every known law of celebrity physics, she should be rubble right now. Remember what they told us at the top of this video? Bulletproof. Unbreakable. The whole internet laughed at the idea of her falling. And yet, the album is number 1. The new single is out. The next album is already promised. The trial is won. The tour rehearsal she announced on CBS Mornings while she was pregnant is still happening. Cardi B is still dropping, still touring, still posting, still standing in the middle of the storm like the storm works for her. Maybe it does. Maybe the storm has always worked for her. So here is the question this entire video has been building toward, and I do not want lazy answers. Is this the end of Cardi B? Or is this the opening chapter of the greatest comeback run female rap has ever witnessed? Because history says never count this woman out. Every single time the culture drafts her obituary, she crashes her own funeral with a #1 record and a fresh manicure. But the walls only have to close in once, and 2026 is squeezing harder than any year Cardi has ever survived. Think back to everything on the board. The price tag tweet that lit the match. The diss that turned into free marketing for its own target. The coronation performance spent aiming at the cheap seats. The $10 million offer that got rejected at the conference table. The unfollow one day after Valentine's. The fan army that used to go to war for her now writing think pieces about her. And against all of it, a #1 album, a cleared verdict, a new single, and a tour still on the calendar. Something has to give, y'all. Either the pressure breaks her, or the pressure makes her. And if we are being honest about who we are talking about, pressure has been making diamonds out of this woman since the Bronx. And remember that question I told you to tuck away at the very beginning? The one about whether walking away is even in her DNA? It answered itself, battlefield by battlefield. Every single front we walked through today was somebody pressing the button, and every single time, she swung. That is who she is. That is who she has trained herself